Hey, I'm here with James this afternoon. Hello,
Hi,
James.
hi. I'm sitting
Yeah.
outside in the front garden.
Is it sunny where you are?
It's gone cloudy. It was sunny earlier, but it's warm. The clouds keeping the heat down, so it's nice.
It's not very warm here. It's been raining most of the day. No.
Oh, ah, mind you, this is Scotland. It can have all
But it's the
seasons
same
in
here,
one
isn't
day.
it, James? You blink an eye and the weather's changed.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah,
well,
anyway, we've come
back.
together today because you want to talk about a few things.
Yeah. Where do you want to start?
Well, um, I want to do the submarine ones first. But
Okay.
I just wanted to put in because obviously you're going to go through this avenue of this bit that you're going to talk about. But I
Yeah.
just find all that really weird. I went and looked up yesterday, even have a bit of footage. But the the submarines at the turn of the century, 1900s, were tiny.
Hmm.
They're much
Yeah.
bigger now. In the 1980s, last they put a diagram up, it went like 1900, 1910, 1920s, 1940s, 1950s, 1980s. By the time we got to the 1980s, they're big, but the ones in the 1900 they were tiny.
Hmm.
But
But
there's loads of those got sunk from about 1900 to about 1925, and that's all Tartaria.
there's photographs of ones been used in the American Civil War. That they'd be small compared to like today's ones, but
You
they're
could probably fit about 5 or 10 men on them.
yeah. Um, but they're photographs. But
Where did you see those then, James? You told me about that.
uh, I think it was
I have to say, doesn't that go
Martins.
against everything you think? Indians and submarines, they just don't go together.
I think it's Martin Leake has featured bits on that. So it's quite some time ago, but
Right.
it's some sort of mystery with it all. That's for sure.
And the other thing, I have a video waiting to go out, which I just, like we've all heard of that East Cotton Company. It's like they'll say, this is how they did the
East India
trading with
Company.
America, East India Company, sorry. This is how they did the
Yeah.
trading with America and Europe and all that. And we know we've got that maritime bit, but I told you I read it out last night. It said
Mm.
that it was the biggest corporation the world's ever seen. It had its own army, its own region, its own
Yeah.
everything. And I'm like, well, where does that fit into everything? You can't have, there's already all these monarchies and whatever it is, king. Like we've already I don't understand. Like that's how I think they did it. They used those
Well,
companies to
who is
run
running?
to run everything.
Running? Who is running the East India Company? What are the names? Because
Us.
they'd be appointed. Yeah, but there'd be appointed people at the top.
What I mean is, we already know they made America into a corporation and they made the Indies into a corporation. So you can see how they've used everything.
Well, it just morphs. One time it's the sugar trade, then it's the opium trade, it's the tea trade. It's probably the same thing, just sort of change of identity, as it were. I mean, White Star Line still exists in a way because
It was
it
them
was
getting rid of
amalgamated.
Tartaria. They just mashed it up so much that
Mm.
you probably can't quite work it out. But when I read that, I was like, oh my God, the biggest corporation, it said. Corporation,
Mm.
so we already know what they are, not good things. And the whole of the Indies was run like that. But you know what? I read documents that said the Queen still owns, even though it says she's given India back, she still owns India.
Yeah,
Like she still owns large sections of America. And it's like, I just don't know who to believe anymore, but that's the history that's out there.
yeah.
Anyway, what it was is I've been quite amazed with the submarine things because they look like little gondolas, if you know what I mean. The way that they hadn't realised really, and it's only by looking now, and yet we've been looking at ships. Maybe it's because the Titanic was different. Maybe it's because the hull was different, and they concentrate us on that hull. But
Mm.
for the Tartarian ones, even the submarines, they had rounded
Yeah,
fronts. The
yeah.
ships were rounded.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? It's like but then you think, oh, I haven't seen any of those for ages. But you know that they exist, the rounded front ones. Now they're different. They're sort of, I don't know, like
They sort of
trying
resemble
to
more like a marine mammal.
yeah,
Body.
so the ones that they sunk are all the rounded ones. But
Mm.
I'm just so shocked. And then I noticed when I was doing my bit about England and about, because I, that was about the trees, or that we were, like on a rock, big rock with a, with the cliffs.
Yeah.
Was that around us? It just came up on one of the pictures that we're just around us is just a cemetery of ships and submarines.
Mm. Yeah, pretty much.
Isn't that weird though?
Don't know.
That's it. Sink everything. You've got 10, 15 years to sink it all.
No, it's one of the sort of trademarks of it all, isn't it? It's suppression and sinking.
Yeah, probably. Anyway, that was my part on it, because that's intrigued me, all that part of it. But you wanted to talk about a different part of it, didn't you? With
Yeah,
submarines.
this there's a story that sort of seems to have come out in recent years about a considerable number of the German U-boats, their submarine fleets, didn't surrender until December of 1945. And it's like, that's odd.
I know
It's
where
now
they did it, James. I came across it and I meant to go and do it, and then I just lost the picture and I thought, oh God, I forgot about that, because I was doing something else. But it said that all these German soldiers went to this place right at the top of Scotland and surrendered.
quite, yeah, they're supposed to have a whole load of them surrendered in some during December 1945. But I mean, the thing I just take from that, because I don't know whether it's true or not, it's like, what's this story actually telling me? And what I'm reading from it is you've got things going on below the surface, covert operations, which I think is quite apparent today, shall we say. And it's basically, that's all I take from it. I mean, I'm not going to get into the whether it did or didn't happen, because it's another one of these things that's just trickled out conveniently, the internet. It's like, well, why wasn't anybody talking about this before? Why were we never told about this in school or anything? And it's like, this is bizarre, because just the logistics of it. I mean, I can't remember.
Yeah,
Just
but you know what it
hypothetically.
is now, don't you? The line is now that is, if you're looking at this, Hitler actually won the war.
Well, I don't know about that, but the thing is, say just argument's sake, 45 of these U-boats. They've got to have fuel. They've got to be armed. The crew have got to be fed. So you've got to have a infrastructure to keep that many submarines going for 7 months of covert operations. So that opens up so many questions of, well, how did that
You
happen?
already know, like I said, that the submarines that we're talking about, I suppose they'd be slightly bigger by the 40s, but they still could
Yeah.
only hold maybe 20 men. They weren't huge, great things. So how would they
No,
store everything? And the first ones,
no
when I
idea.
looked inside, they basically just were one room. Like when you go in an aeroplane and you sit in that little,
Yeah,
it was like that. It was just a room with seats in it.
yeah,
It wasn't
yeah.
sort of a submarine with bedrooms and bathrooms and kitchens and mess hall and all that. It wasn't anything like that.
Well, what I do like is what the system does show us.
How would they be able to keep those people going then?
When you're talking about in terms of spiritual and going into this age of Aquarius, and it's letting go of old dogmas, letting go of old ideas and things. I mean, look what the system is showing everybody: getting rid of the old.
Yeah.
That's their
Sorry.
twisted version of the same thing. This is the thing. It's like, look at what the system's showing, how they've twisted a truth and turned it into something else all the time. This is
Always.
how it's repeat, 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 which they play out with prescribed ideas because they're already written,
Yeah,
and they
because
just
they wouldn't be able to store much on there. They haven't got, well, I don't know what they had in the 1940s submarine, but where did they go? Where were they?
out in the Atlantic, apparently, weren't they?
Do you think they were on Greenland? That place they're always, maybe they were held up
Well,
there.
if they were supposed to have gone to this new Schwabia land on the Antarctic, I'd say pretty much any ocean, they'd be able
How
to
many
get.
actually surrendered then? Do you remember then? Because like you said, maybe
I
they were an
can't.
expedition, they're out and had come back, and then we better surrender. But I don't know if any. How can we? There's so many stories now about the Second World War. It's hard to know what is the truth anymore. Except all the Tartaria buildings got destroyed, loads of people got displaced, children were taken away, and that all seems to be what they want anyway.
Yeah, well, they make this big thing about how they'd broken the Enigma code and they could track all these U-boats. So if they can track all these U-boats, why were these U-boats still operational? I mean, that doesn't make sense, does it? Because these things must have been coordinated. They weren't just like aimlessly sort of under the water in the oceans for 7 months. They were doing something.
But then
So
everything that's
that
done
doesn't
for
add up.
us in the public is just a game, isn't it? We know it is now.
Yeah. It's just gossip and hearsay. But when you've got control of corporations and you can coerce things to give the illusion of something, then as we've seen over the last year or two, how people just sort of jump with it because they believe it's real.
Yes, you mean like just what we've
This
been
is,
through?
well, yeah, this is how this whole reality is held together. It's programming to make people selfish and narcissistic. You see that on the way people drive on the roads over the years. You can tell the personality of a person, whether they're by their whole attitude, the way they drive, and that's got worse over the years. Then you've got this continuous bump. I mean, we don't stand a chance before you're even born. It's all sort of rigged against you right from the word go. And
Yeah,
it's a
with
bit
our
of a
learning, we're not particularly in the nicest of places after all. That this place where we thought we were free and democracy and everything was open is the most closed off, militarized, mechanical system that you could ever have, and it's all directed through the television.
yes and no.
Oh, it is that, James.
Externally, it might be, but it's like I come out into this garden, and that reality just
Oh yeah,
dissolves.
because it exists in that TV. It doesn't. If you don't want it to exist and you don't take any notice of it, it's not really there.
This is what it comes down to. It's like if you focus on it, you're feeding energy to it. So
Mm.
I
But
I,
we
I
already
don't.
know that most people, or a lot of people, are watching the television.
Oh yeah, that's not saying it's right or
I'm not saying
wrong,
you
but
are, or the people that come to the channel are, or we're choosing to watch what we want to watch, but we know which ones listened because
yeah.
we do.
Well, what I'm finding, we have got this revelations going on. It's a personal experience. There's songs you've heard from years and years ago. You just hear the words and think, oh, I hear something very different, a very different message in this now. And it's same with films and everything.
Yeah, that is incredible. It's like, you know how many times I must have driven past Marlborough College,
Yeah.
and even if I knew there was a mound in there, never thought it was what it was. And now I think, how could I not know or see this like this? You know, like you come across things that you would now you think, how could I miss all that other information? You were channeled on certain information, I suppose.
Yeah. All I know with the external world, you look at these structures, the size of them, and the size of the blocks, and then you think the way they're telling us it just doesn't add up on anything in the time
I told you this
scales
is
or.
what's blown my mind about the India thing, because I was expecting to see a few buildings there that were going to look, well, English, because they said we run it. When you look at it, it just looks like you could be walking around London or you could be walking around New York. The
Well, it's the
buildings they've
same.
got, they may not have got as many, and I'm sure some of them have been destroyed anyway because they won't really want us knowing the truth. But there's a gate there called the Gate of India down by Bombay, and behind that is this great big building. You know, that could be Harrods, you know, in London. And the train station is just, well, I don't know if that's there, but in the old pictures, it's just unbelievable. It was absolutely beautiful. And you think, wow,
Yeah.
it was just amazing. And the architecture is not Indian. It's whatever that was,
Well,
English, Tartarian, whatever.
this is a repeat pattern. I mean, you look at pictures of Japan in the 1920s, in a time when it was sort of pretty much closed off, allegedly, from the rest of the world, and yet you could be walking along the embankment in London. The only thing that gives it away is the odd sort of Japanese person, and obviously their writing
I
characters.
know, it's so bizarre. Like, and do you know what? Me and Amy were talking about it the other day because we thought, if you're at war all the time, you won't be making these big buildings.
No.
And the thing is, it's not even that. The style of them, it's just like the New York ones or the English ones. Like, it's not like, oh, they're similar buildings. Oh, yes, they're great big buildings, but they don't quite look like ours. They look the same as the ones in London and the ones in New York.
Yeah. It's pretty much the same sort of triangle a bit on top
and if you're at war, you're not going to be building a lot, are you? The people will be at war. Don't forget, they've got us in war upon war upon war. I mean, even when you didn't even think there was any wars, there were wars going on all the time. And I just find it incredible that these great big buildings are in India. I mean, okay, we're supposed to have run it for a while, but oh my God, when they show us any program about us running India, they're always got like things around their faces, like scarves over their faces, and we're out in somewhere and it's all hot and it's all Indian like. When I looked at Bombay, I thought, oh my God, it looks like those buildings, they just look like the ones we've got.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't have thought India gets temperatures that are that much greater than Sweden in the height of summer, because that's similar to Turkey being on the Mediterranean in the summer. Same as
they do
vast
get
areas
quite hot down there, but I was just so shocked to see. Just go look up old pictures of Bombay, you'll find them.
You get people caught out going on Rhine cruises in Germany, and it's a wine growing region. It's like, hello, that's going to be hot. It's not going to be as cool as you think it is. It's going to be a lot warmer. That catches a lot of people out.
So they had flats and things there that were like, when we did what was it, Tekis? What was that place that we did?
Oh, Turkmenistan.
When you look at those great big blocks of flats, they've got similar ones, but obviously no one's saying nobody's living there and the town's half empty.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's a cross between that and with the London buildings, and even they've got the single buildings, like they had one room thick they even had some of them.
Yeah.
I just thought, wow.
Trouble is, without having the original plan and the chronology of it all, it's just having a jigsaw puzzle pieces.
They could easily say it, James, because they could even say, it's nothing to do with us. We moved into all that. I mean, that would be something. But like, that they were destroying those submarines to get rid of that, and bringing out the Titanic when it looked like it's a ropey old boat, that was.
It all just becomes one great big soap opera.
And we don't even know if that existed, because you can find articles that said everybody got off.
Yeah. It's continuously conflicting information, which is
that's what life's like, isn't it? That's why it's best sometimes not to go to the television or the computers and just be with nature and the rest, because it's quite difficult, really, because you can never work it out. You think, I said to Amy, 2 more pieces of jigsaw puzzle, because you're just making the puzzle bigger. Nothing's adding up quite yet. There's just so much in the pot. The puzzle was at say 100, now it's at 2,000, and it's growing, because you think you find a bit of information and you think, and then it just leads you to more information that you don't know or don't understand, and it just goes on.
And it's all coming from the internet, which
a place you don't even know if you can trust.
Well, I wouldn't say any of it can be trusted, to be perfectly honest, because the intent behind it always seems to be one of tracking their version of the all-seeing eye, as it were.
Do you know something, James? It was a while ago now when I was a bit new to this, I'd done the Watts case, and then what it was is we were looking at old photographs, and I was going, but James, they don't look right, look. And we were looking at them, and none of them were right. And
Yeah.
I just don't see that period of time being right. I mean, in a way, it was an amazing time. If you think they made the Rife machine, contact lenses, they were already doctoring pictures and putting backgrounds up or whatever they
Yeah.
were doing. So they already had technology. You obviously had electricity a lot earlier than they say. And then you get these totally bedraggled people and all the orphan children and then there's been all this mud. I don't know. It's probably twice in the 1800s.
Well, something else that sort of just occurred to me, when you see these pictures of these Zeppelins and they're moored to an anchor point on the top of a building, it's like the forces of the wind on. I mean, they weren't light things. These airships. If you've got a strong enough wind, that must put enormous forces on the structure of the building. So that would be an engineering feat, which would.
So you're not sure whether some of it's correct or not.
To be honest,
Is it weird? So we've got Zeppelins, they're in our history, but actually they could have been used for many centuries. Maybe they changed a bit and got better. And then, like when I put that video out about the Hindenburg, I'd never realised the inside, like cross section, it had different floors and it had kitchens and bedrooms. And when I showed that, some of the people went, "Wow, I didn't know it looked like that inside."
Yeah.
It's almost like some of it is real and some of it isn't.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole thing. It's a blurred. Well, if you think about it, this system is trying to fuse things together.
But on the other hand, I do remember, I know we're going to talk about it a bit in a minute, about pyramids, but what it was is that Angel noticed that some of the pyramids in America, they've got like platforms. He said people were landing here. It could have been Zeppelins, could have been hot air balloons.
Well, even again with the Zeppelins, to have international flights, you've obviously got to have facilities at each end. You can't just sort of.
I know, but people do find them. I just remember Nigel saying once that he saw those scooters, those electric scooters they had in the 1930s. They're saying that they were good for airports. And you're like, well, we didn't really have any airports then.
Well, Croydon.
Well, but if we had lots of Zeppelin flights going, then there would be airports. But they sort of annihilated that part out, so we don't know whether. And I mean, like you're saying, when it was moored to the top of the building on the top, then how the hell did they get off? And what? They've got to walk on this little plank, like, look, don't look down. I just don't see the debarking, what do you call it? Getting off of it is very easy when you're up at the top of the spike of the building.
Well, again, just got to look at why is it you've got pictures of these things being moored and things, but no pictures of people disembarking or boarding these things? It's like,
I mean, no disembarking. Yeah,
that's all too convenient.
I don't even understand why. Was it that like we have a lot of cloud, don't we? Was it that every single day for them was a grey day, because we never really see clouds in the sun? And I just think that if you can capture people in it, you would capture, even if it was a glare of the sun, we never see it. They just blanked out sky. It's like they've constantly got grey skies.
You can't even really say it's a cloud, because it's just a complete blanket of uniform.
Today, I can tell you, it's just completely grey out there. If we were like black and whites today, it might look like those 1800 pictures. But those 1800 pictures are wrong. Then you find a section of men dressed as women, and none of the pictures, anybody looks happy. None of them.
No. I was going to say, if I was to take a picture now, you would still see, even in a black and white picture, you would see the outlines of different clouds. But when you look at those old photos, it's a uniform blanket with no distinction, no shading. There's no variation in it.
Today, if you took that today, it's just utterly grey out there. You wouldn't be able to make a cloud out today. It would have the same thing. But what was it? Just cloudy all the time?
I would have said it's got bits masked out, overlays of transparency.
Why didn't they just throw the pictures away, James? Why did they keep the pictures, stick them all out? I mean, like they show us this list of pictures where they say, well, they did a lot of death photographs. And you're thinking, well, the real ones don't look much different to the deaf ones.
Well, apparently some of these photos are with corpses.
Yeah, and then sometimes I think when you look at them, I'm thinking, are we looking at the same age here? Are they, are those ones a lot older? And then those ones are the 1800s, but those ones are maybe the 1700s. They're just lying. And they can't tell us they had photography in the 1700s or electricity in the 1700s because they've got to play their game out. We didn't get electricity till the turn of the 1900s. And now we know that's a load of rubbish.
Well, I would say any picture I see, whether it be on the internet or a photograph, sort of something in more recent years, I can get the energy of the spirit of the person. But when it comes to those pictures from that era, nothing.
You and I know, don't you, when we were looking at the pictures, you could almost believe it if you're just looking at, oh, look, there's an old photograph or an old bit of film. But you suddenly realise there's this and then there's that, and there's about 40 years of equipment in it. Like, let's say something from the 1900s, something from... And then the people look like their feet disappear. They just don't look right. Some people are bigger than others. And this is what they were doing in the Watts case. When someone's further away, they either make them look taller or smaller. They're never in the right perspective.
No.
A part of me wants to believe them because I do, but other part of me can't because so much is wrong with everything.
Well, it's more a case of the challenge is to find something that is genuine and true out there, rather than, I don't mean things you actually personally see, but any
Christian saying to me, he's saying now that basically he was watching a video. I like the lady, I can't remember what she is. She did the one with the fairies, the little houses in Croatia.
Yeah.
Croatia off in Italy. Basically she's saying, look at all the knights' armor. Basically, once they were in it, they couldn't come out, so they couldn't go to the toilet any other way than doing it in there. So they had to be washed down about 5 times a day. And then she was saying, what? They filled it all up with water, and they had water in it. And then it was like, well, maybe they were using the water for something else. And you're like, I looked at them. I want to make a video about it. The armor, right? There's no way. Hang on, James. I'm just going to get it up so people know what I'm talking about because I took pictures of it yesterday. Right, so I went and got my pictures. I hadn't actually put them on Facebook. That's where I put a lot of stuff and I copy it from. Imagine wearing that. So basically, it goes over your head and you cannot turn your head. And then basically, it's slightly more armoured in a V over it to the shoulders. I mean, I don't even know how they move their shoulders. You'd have to have some mechanical thing in there so you could move your shoulders. There's no way you'd be able to move his arms.
No.
So let's go to another one. So the head, like...
I've never seen anybody wearing...
How would he be able to turn around? I mean, in a way, they look like deep sea divers. It's slightly different because the helmet's different and that, but it's like that. But he can't turn around. He's bolted. He's got bolts on his neck. Yeah. So he's bolted in, and then he can hardly see out of there, and he's supposed to breathe. What happens if it's hot?
Well, I don't believe any of it. I've never seen anybody wear one and try and move in one, so I really don't know.
So I see it for myself. This is not history then, James. Where's it come from? I mean, this one looks even more...
history. Do you think any of it is real? This is all an illusion. It's all a matrix.
I mean, there's nothing for the mouth. There's 2 little slits for the eyes. It's quite decorated, and there might be little holes to breathe down there on the left-hand side, but nothing for you to turn the head round. It's all hard cast. I don't know if I mean, what she said was there worms inside? Because sometimes inside they show that there's other things inside them, and they're wearing these to make them look human. That's what the video was about. But then Christian thought, well, if they're putting water in, and then maybe they link up and they can have electrical weapons. But then why would the armor look so old?
No idea.
No, I don't. I mean, there you can see it's all bolted in. He's got, he can't turn his head. You'd have to turn your whole, like, imagine trying to turn round. You'd have to turn right round. I mean, it doesn't work, does it? you want the quickest defense thing. That's not the quickest defense when you sort I can't look. Oh yeah, I've got to turn my whole body around. I'm riding a horse and it's all heavy. You'd fall off. It's not, I don't know why, there's something wrong. I never thought about it before.
The whole story we're told about battles. I mean, you've got armies, you've got soldiers all in nice, neat rectangles, nice and easy for cannons to fire at, if cannons are even real, the way they tell us. So I just the whole thing's just one great big joke.
This one's got a bit of a grill over his face, so he's got a bit of a breathing way, but he still can't move his neck.
Yeah.
I've never heard of anything more ridiculous. I mean, do you think they just put them on when they were doing, you know, when they did their what do you call that? When they have their big swords out? What do you call that? I've forgotten.
Broadswords.
No, you know, when they used to bang each other off the horses with their big sticks.
Oh, the jousting.
Jousting, that's it. Maybe they wore this for jousting only.
Possibly.
I mean, I could understand that, but I couldn't understand they want to go into battle wearing all this. Can you imagine? You hear them coming, clink, 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 as they were running through. Everything would be clinking.
I don't believe any of it personally.
And now, in a way, except for the head, he looks like the Tin Man out of, you know,
Yeah,
Alice, you know, the film.
Mm.
Follow
Alice in
the yellow
Wonderland.
brick road.
Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, Wizard of Oz.
The thing then, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, look at that one. I mean, this one looks like he's got great big feet. He looks like he's got his feet on back to front. They look like they're the wrong way round. And he's got so much armor on there. By the time he started to walk, it would be, because he's got that meshing on underneath, it would be so difficult to walk with the weight of it.
Mm. Yeah, I can't see how that would. I'd like to see somebody put one of these suits of armor on and actually go into battle against somebody else and see
without wearing one.
How they can even walk.
I mean, they seem stupid, really. I mean, this one, he's got his eyes and then it goes to his nose, but then it veers out so you can breathe through his mouth for this one, on this one. But I'm just saying, I saw a lot of them when the mouths were covered, they just got slits for eyes and there's no way to breathe. And then they're wearing all this.
Well, it's just another mask, isn't it?
Unless they had some super duper, very, very light, but very strong metal that they're not telling us about.
No idea.
That's not what the pictures are depicting. I mean, where is it? Where is it? Is it this one? Not that one. Not that one. Where is it? Can't see it now. That one. I mean, that one looks so, like, good God, would you want to be out in that? Like, imagine being in that all day. You wouldn't be able to move. It's like, it's cast iron over your head, right around your neck, right around your body, really thick. You can't breathe through your mouth. You've got two little tiny slits, which you can hardly see anything. It's just incredible. Anyway, we were just bringing that to people's attention, weren't we, James?
Mm.
Nothing adds up, does it, James?
No, it's not meant to. It's by design. It's not meant to. It's not meant to add up.
I'm going to put this bit on here to just go like through the. I've just got the little the German U-boats to show you that they're small. You can see there's a man there. These things were not that big. I lost James for a little bit then, but we kind of finished the submarine part of it because there's no answers. James just wanted to put the question out about right. Well, Floss is going mad because Ellie's taking her out. Can you hear that?
Yeah. I thought, oh, something's up with Floss.
He's mad. Anyway, sorry, something came up. A picture was coming up. But anyway, we've got the inside of the pyramid now. So, what's your thoughts on this, James?
Right. Well, You got the schematic up on the screen.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you notice you've got those four shafts. I think you've got representation of the eyes and the ears. I think with the King's Chamber and the Queen's Chamber and the corbelled roof above the King's Chamber, I think you've got the thalamus, the pineal, the pituitary gland. I think the mathematical angles of those passageways are significant to this. This is showing human physiology. Basically, the entrance way would be the equivalent of the mouth. And I think it's sending the spiritual energy down. I think this is what they've based this on, or part of its function. It's to do with renewal of life, and it's showing what's going on in the human body and the human mind. I'm not sure how many of those sort of triangular bits they've got above the King's Chamber. If it's 7, it would time with each of the 7 chakras.
Well, the pictures I'm looking at have just got the diagram with the Queen's Chamber and then the whatever gallery that is. It's not that detailed, but it's just showing you what sort of the inside is like. So I don't know if there's 7 layers. It's got one triangle on top.
Depends on the schematic, but I can't remember the number. But I think there's spacings between them. They say it's to support the structure, that roof above that chamber. But I think that's what it's actually showing. It's showing the inside of the brain. And I think.
And why do you think they'd be doing that then, James?
Well, if you look at all the sort of carvings and things, you've got those what look like these giant beings holding light bulb. Well, they're said to be light bulbs. They look more like some sort of snake or serpent inside them. Whether it's some way of putting a parasite, that sort of black eye thing in the left eye, the moon eye, whether it's some ritual ceremony like that. But to me, that's what I was sort of shown. It's like, oh yeah, there's the pituitary gland, the pineal gland, the thalamus. That's what it looks to be showing to me. But of course, that's only the Great Pyramid, because they don't all seem to have these. They seem to have different functions. I know from tests on the magnetics on the Great Pyramid, they give off a positive energy on the outside. That's why it's fertile on that Nile Delta. It's quite green around that little area. And then the rest is desert.
Angel, who we've listened to quite a lot talk about them, he says they're all built on different levels, like in the land, but they all match up. The internal matches up. And one's positive, neutral.
They probably follow a grid. I'm sure there must be a channel out there that's plotted out where all these things are, and it probably does form some sort of grid system on Earth. There's definitely magnetic properties to them.
Maybe these humming away, if they've got the brain frequencies, this is how they were controlling us before.
Quite possibly. They may not be anything benevolent at all. They may well be of some sort of transmission, some sort of frequency. Who knows? I'd say as well they were cast on site, rather than petrified wood, simply because I think it's Rudolf Ganterbrick, a German engineer or scientist. He was working out there, and he built this robot that went up one of those passageways when it was opened up, and there's a piece of wood in there. Then in some ways, he sort of made the mistake and went public with the information and said he could build a second robot with an arm to retrieve this piece of wood, which they could then carbon date. And of course, he was then kicked off for going public. So it begs the question of
something about people being buried yesterday. Some of these people had died in the 13th century, supposedly, and they had mummified naturally, and they'd been moved, all sorts of things, but they're almost in perfect condition. And I looked at some of them, and I'm thinking, God, that woman's 600 years old, and they're glass cases. So obviously, burying us isn't the best thing to do into ground. You have to be buried. Maybe that's why they put each other in catacombs then, in land, because
the physical body stays with this physical reality. It doesn't leave. It's only on loan.
I just thought it was really strange. I wasn't watching that, but it came up and I thought, oh, okay, I want to look at that then. And for some reason, they've all mummified.
Yeah. To say everything in this reality is backwards. So the best life insurance you can have is to have no life insurance. Because who's going to pay for?
They took all their organs out and everything. They did certain things they didn't need to do. It just needed to encase them in a piece of glass or something.
No, because those organs will contain part of the spirit. The human body is just like a car. That is not you. That is just the vessel that you're in to have the experience here. This is the biggest deception on everybody. That people think this reality is real, and they think, and it's always been about separation and attachment to something else. This anti-nature thing is taking something and then trying to tell you it's something else. It's like you're not on a flat plane, you're on the outside of the magnetic field of the toroidal field, you're on a spinning ball. So they've moved you. You are on Earth, but the physical part is that earthing plane in the middle of a toroidal field. But that doesn't mean it isn't a globe either. It's just you can't physically go on the globe part of it.
If you've got to explain the fourth dimension, James, I mean, supposedly you walk a straight line and you come back on yourself as if you've done a circle, but all you did was walk a straight line. I mean, how do you explain the fourth dimension to people?
The fourth dimension is time. If you imagine...
Yeah, but time doesn't just get us somewhere. We've got to move.
Time is an illusion. We don't move anywhere. If you were to take your entire life and put it on a film reel, what all you're seeing is one film frame, which is the now moment. So you only see a snapshot of that fourth dimension. Space disappears, especially in the spiritual and meditation. It's instant. There is. I mean, I'm seeing something really beautiful starting to emerge organically in a completely new way. That's not formal. It's not organized. It's not got a label. It's not. You can't call it a spiritual group, and it's a new cosmology, a new astrology. A new way of doing tarot cards is coming out of this. This is creativity. This is this new age of Aquarius. So, but that external world will try and show you the opposite. And it wants us in negative state. That's what it feeds off. So it will always put out negative images and stories and things, but they're just rehashed stories over and over again.
Well, we don't even know how long we've been here, and I think that as much as there's all these stories, I don't think we've been here as long as they say.
Well, I know how long I've been here.
It's a shock, because yesterday what it was is someone else, lady friend, she was watching Anne Boleyn, and Anne Boleyn they're depicting in the TV series as a black lady, and like it's blown her mind because she never thought or could conceive, because they've never shown us history where anybody is dark-skinned in the royal family. Of course, I made videos a few months ago where I showed it all, that actually now when you go back, all the old pictures of these people, Henry VIII and Mary Queen of Scots and all that, Mary Queen of Scots had a dark-skinned baby, Henry VIII was dark, then there's the Holy Roman Emperor thing that's around a lot, and it's blown her mind.
Yeah.
Because our history doesn't show, she's going, well, come on, Queen Elizabeth, she was ginger-haired and powdered white. And I thought a long time ago, yeah, she was powdered white because she was making herself white. Because she was dark-skinned.
It's all gossip again.
Well, we don't know if any of it's the truth, but that's more, I reckon that's more the truth than...
It's not my history.
They're just making more crap. Like, they're introducing dark-skinned people. Why didn't they just do it in the first place? This Tartarian thing, the people were in harmony. I don't think the people were fighting. All the wars are made up. we were building and everything like that. We were in harmony. So why not just have, we were mingling. So why not just have left it like that? Why make up we all hated each other? And what, did their plan not work?
No, plan's working beautifully.
But it's horrible, isn't it, to make like generations of people resent other people when actually everybody's just resenting everybody, and they've just turned everybody against each other. It's not
Pretty
just
much.
one colour, one race, and then they're lying because they're always saying, "Oh, that's what the Chinese are doing. Oh, that's what they're doing." And then when you actually speak to anybody, they say, "Well, it's not like that here." So you can't substantiate anything anyway.
Well, you just look at the mirror of it. Look at what they're showing now. They're basically making everybody mistrustful and fearful of each other, and keep away from me. You might be a
I
potential.
know that's really sad. That is, I hate that. The most stressed out people are the people who believe it.
Well, I'm not affected by them, but the thing is, just look at the beautiful message that's in there. It's the age of Aquarius. It's standing in our individual sovereignty. They've just twisted the story and presented it in a different way.
I know, but it's almost at the stage, James, where we need to go, hey, we're leaving them all behind. We're going to move somewhere else now and leave all these people behind.
I'm just ignoring it all. It's not affecting my daily life at all.
Yes, not yours. Yes, we know that, but there's a whole world full of people and a lot of awake people.
It's down to them to not let. If you're not in control of your emotions, you're going to let this put into a negative state. Well done, system. You've won. You've allowed the system to get to you. It's like not in my universe. That ain't happening. I mean, I'm getting older. So they think the threat of a life sentence or a life imprisonment is losing any power. It's like, so what? I've got a roof over my head.
Yeah, I do remember. It was not Baldrick. The other one. Who was it? What's his name?
Robin
Mr.
Atkinson.
Bean. Yeah, him. He was going, one of the most important things you've ever had in your life is a roof over your head. Then comes food. Then comes the freedom of choice. Speech. Yeah. And I remember that because he made it a bit political, didn't he, a few years ago because they were trying to bring, what they did was they were bringing laws in, but they were lying about it. I think that's the most disgusting thing. They're saying that they brought in all these acts and that, but they put them in the wrong place and they're lying.
Well, when do they not lie?
But they're laws. I'm just going to get a packet of crisps, James, because I'm hungry.
Yeah, laws LAW, not LOR.
Oh, I know. I just, do you know what I think? I mean, it's so bizarre, right? I've got a video of Sparky Lee's waiting to go out.
Yeah.
And he puts down that Edward VIII was also Hitler. And then, you got other people playing Edward VIII and so forth like that. But I saw that the Tsar of Russia's wife was murdered, supposedly, and she became his wife. She became Wallace.
Well, I know lots of people that play one part. There's lots of people playing the part of Enoch. And that's basically the whole truth community, is like pointing out the errors with things. So these parts can be played. You can play any part you want. The world is a stage, and it's got many trapdoors. It's got many curtains and veils, many spotlights.
But it's a lot like playing one way, don't they, James?
Well, they're carnivores, aren't they? They don't like to point out the errors with their supposed history. They love accolades.
Yeah, I suppose it's just their way of controlling us one way or another, isn't it?
Well, that's all they've got. They're the ones that are stuck in this reality. They're just clinging on to what they've got. They love their awards. They love their Golden Globes. They love their accolades. I mean, how many members of the royal family, especially male members of the royal family, you see come out on a balcony with a highly decorated left shoulder, and you think you've probably never been in a conflict situation because you're a royal.
No.
Yeah, they love their ceremony and ritual. And it's like,
I know in the Academy Awards, there's something completely different now, aren't they? They're not what we think they are. They're obviously the awards they give each other when they played really good parts for them.
Oh yeah, definitely. They do. The system will reward just follows basically the same pattern as Dracula and Servants of Dracula. They're expendable. Once they're no use to the Prince of Darkness, that they're out. That's why you get disgraced politicians and all this information suddenly leaked out about their past. I mean, they did it with Alex Salmond up in Scotland. It's suddenly all these sex offences allegations all suddenly
Oh
come
yeah,
out.
I
It's
did
like,
a video out about that. Yeah.
yeah. So how come that wasn't public knowledge when the first offences are supposed to happen? Why has it all suddenly come out all in one go? Did he not toe the
Also,
line?
I put one out last week, and I put it on both channels. Tony Blair was done. I don't even like using this word, but this is what he was caught for: cottaging twice. He was in court, and he used his middle names. He didn't use his last name.
Oh, Charles
And
Linton.
it's
Yeah.
like, well, why didn't the press bring that out? There's no way everybody would have voted for him as to be prime minister, knowing that.
Well, because when that whole Jimmy Savile thing came out, who was the one that locked it down for 100 years so the public couldn't look at the information? Tony Blair, because that name Charles Linton kept coming up, which is his middle names. He's
Yeah,
just
I was really shocked because I mean, it was so easy to go and find this information, and I thought, wow, I'm like 20 years too late.
He's just like the scapegoat public figure.
I can't
Direct all
stand him.
it's to direct all your venom to these characters.
You know, when you said that you read people and you can read their energies, him, can't stand him. I just can't.
The first time I ever saw him, that cheesy grin was all I needed to see, and I thought, you're going to be trouble. That's
Why
the
would
person
anybody
that
think that he was a working man?
working at what?
He's not a working man, is he? He's a toffee-nosed, lying.
Well, his political track record. I mean, he was made peace envoy in the Middle East during the times of some of the worst conflict. He's not got a very good track record at anything. He's a disaster. And of course, we're paying, UK taxpayers are paying for 4 bodyguards everywhere he goes.
You know what? I was at work one day, James. I was in my early 40s. It was probably a few years after he'd gone. And it was on something like Radio 2. I was working and they had the radio on and this programme came on. And they said that they were going to arrest him. They said they're not sure who they were going to get to arrest him. Would it be the police or would it be the House of Commons? Who's got more power here? And it never happened. They said they were going to arrest him for what happened.
Well, have you ever known any of these when people have tried to make...
From 9/11, they got the Patriot Act, and we got a similar one. And what that says is you cannot try the government of the day.
Yeah. Well, they protect themselves, but regardless of who has got the more authority, there's going to be something with an authority over them that's going to rubber stamp it and say, yes, you can, or no, you can't.
Whole world where someone's got to be responsible, but when you get to it, no one ever is. Even down to, you know, the thingy bob, you've got no redress if you have it. There's no one to go to if you come ill.
Exactly.
And I'm thinking, we live in a place with rules and regulations, and there should be rules and regulations for it, but there isn't.
Well, you've got a legal system which is Crown, so they are above the law. They protect themselves. I think
my biggest shock was finding out that, you know, all along we've sort of grown up. Even Amy in America, the Queen takes a back seat now. She's not really part of it. Yeah, she opens the Houses of Parliament, but she doesn't really have anything to do with it. And then even Edward VIII, he said, we don't get involved in the politics.
Yeah.
Quiet. And then the next thing is, I realised that unless the Queen opens the Parliament, there is no Parliament, and it is her Parliament. And I'm thinking, well, that's the complete opposite of everything.
Yeah.
Right, I'm putting us back on now, James. I've got rid of the pyramids now. We've looked at the pyramids. We can go back to that in a minute. But, yeah. So unless she opens the House of the Parliament, there is no Parliament.
No. It's all a big charade, isn't it, the whole thing, at the end of the day?
I thought she had a backseat. I thought that's the whole thing with Queen Victoria. She handed over her powers to the government.
Hang on. Oh.
That's an ice cream van, isn't it, James?
No, it's more than an ice cream van. It does bread, milk, and all the little essentials.
Oh, that's good.
independent trader as well. So
Oh, that's
always
good.
handy. Yeah, it's nice. Still got one around this way. There's a glimmer of hope, you see.
Have you bought anything from it then?
I've got the odd bits and pieces, but it's obviously dearer.
Mm.
But I don't begrudge it because they've obviously got to make a living as well. But just pick what you buy, really.
Anyway, so we're just talking then. So you think the pyramids are to do with the brain? That whole
Yeah.
thing is like that. That one's to do with the brain.
Human physiology. Um,
But why only that one? Not everybody has loads of pyramids. Sometimes there's loads of pyramids, and like Silbury Hill. Well, there was another one near Silbury Hill, but it wasn't right next to it.
no, I suppose it depends on their position, the magnetics, what their function was or is.
I mean, we thought, did you go there and you went in there and you were like, oh, after a few hours you were so regenerated, it was wonderful? Or
Well,
is it
no,
some kind of mastering tool?
the apparently the tests that have been done on the Great Pyramid, inside is actually a negative energy, and it's the outside that has the more positive energy. But I think they've got different functions and probably different polarities. It depends where it comes down to what were these things ultimately. Do they serve a singular function? Which I would say no, because you would have the same chambers in all of them. Then you've got what they call the bent pyramid, where they change the angle.
Is limestone, or it's
Hmm.
not salt, it's limestone, and they're made out of stone blocks. So the
Yeah,
pyramids are made out of different things.
I'd say they were cast on site from local materials. I don't think it's going down that route of moving 70-ton blocks. I think they were actually cast in position. But again, it comes down to you'd have to do you'd have to know the ground that you're going to put that thing on because of the weight of it.
Well, I asked Brian Forrester that question when he was on the channel last time, and
Yeah.
he said no, they weren't cast there.
Ah, all right.
But I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, well, need to know what his deep sort of more thoughts on that as why he's come to that conclusion.
It's really annoying, isn't it? Because you've got these pyramids, which are a generation of people, and there's no machinery or outbuildings or other things.
No.
Once you've left that bit of complex, like to connect
Yeah.
it with anything else that's there.
Well, when you look at some of these huge structures like that Baalbek temple, and what looks to be destruction of it, then I would have thought it would have a devastating effect on more or less substantial structures. They'd just be eradicated. So there'd be no trace. I think maybe
thought they were energy making things. I
yeah.
thinking that we had electricity long before they said we did, and they probably helped do it.
Thing is, it comes down to if you want to entirely change history, then there's obviously a problem with the larger structures that they're not, the system isn't capable of eradicating them and getting rid of them. So they have to run in
I don't think all pyramids have been listed yet, and there are loads of them. I mean, I know someone in Mexico, and because these pyramids are on private land, they're not registered. So there's more than we think. And when I went to Cornwall last year on the train, I looked out the window and went, "Oh my God, look, there's a pyramid!" It was a pyramid. I'm telling you, it was a pyramid. I was thinking, how come no one else has seen that? Look, it's a pyramid.
Then you got them underwater. Well, don't forget that the system is. Most people, when you say pyramids, they're going to think of Egypt. They're not going to think of anywhere else in the world. It's an image that has been sort of put there, like you mentioned, alien. A lot of people are going to think of that sort of classic, sort of 3 foot high grey thing with a large head. That's been put in people's minds. But an alien used to be a sort of like I suppose it still is a legal term for anybody who's not got citizenship of that country.
And what about the elongated headed people that were everywhere? There's loads around me.
Yeah, that's strange.
I remember watching and thinking, God, look at those elongated headed people. Not realising that through a bit of time I'd make more friends with you know, with Brian Forrester, with Marie Wheatley, and now she keeps finding them. And this is what she said. This is what the army barracks are set up for. They're never set up just to be an army barrack. They're only protected against things we can't see.
Same as probably all golf courses, I would have thought as well. Anything where there is some sort of organisation of that sort of nature, it seems to be a smokescreen for something else.
Well, do you know one thing, right? I've been there, right? I've been to the top part of Denmark. It's called, oh my God, I can't think what it's called. I'm not very good at remembering the names.
Jutland.
Hang on, I've got to go downstairs. Hang on, I've got to go find the name because it'll annoy me. It's on my fridge.
Jutland.
No, hang on. I'm just going to the kitchen. It's annoying me. I need to know. It is Skagen.
Oh yeah.
So Skagen is the top of Denmark, and it's where the North Sea meets the East Sea. It's very weird because you can see the two seas, and the North Sea is more aggressive than the East Sea.
Yeah.
But the East Sea is a more inland sea. It obviously meets the North Sea, so it's not cut off. But there's a whole section where people like to go up there on holiday every year, even though it's about, you know, like if they're doing like the map, it would be where Newcastle is, but obviously it's higher than that because I've told you about that before. But anyway, what it was is this place where we go to see that. It's past my friend, about 10 miles in Skagen. And it is a bit of a beach thing to walk on, and you can't really go in the sea because it's dangerous because of currents. But anyway, there's all these sandbanks, and there's a complex there where there's an art gallery and cafeterias and so forth like that. Anyway, I came back, and about a year later, I was looking at this picture of pyramids, and it said there was a pyramid there. There's loads of bunkers there, you know, German bunkers. There's one in the sea now. And, no wonder, because it's the same thing, because there's a pyramid there.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, oh my God, they don't realise there's a pyramid there in the sandbank.
Yeah, it's all kept quiet. All that
No wonder everybody likes going up there. They just don't realise why.
Yeah. One thing that does sort of come out a lot is the difference in the local actuality of things and what the media reports.
I was so shocked. I was thinking, I haven't even, I've only spoken, I need to speak to my friend, not just text her and say, oh, you know, up in, there's a pyramid up there. She's going to go, oh, don't be silly. I need to find the picture, but she probably won't believe me, but I've got no proof of it. I just saw a picture and it said there's a pyramid there.
Yeah. They seem to be worldwide anyway.
And these things are not, I don't think, well, they're a bit like the star forts, aren't they? There's loads of them.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a bit of toast now, James. I'm sorry. Or actually, I might have no, I'm going to have some toast. No, I have a bun. I'm going to have some toast. I'm getting hungry now. So what made you think it was the mind then, that the pyramid was about the mind?
Just something that I saw in meditation.
Because, you know, my friend Angel, he'd like to build the pyramids to know exactly what they are. He never said the brain.
It's just what it resembles to me. Just for that particular one, anyway, because obviously they've not got those chambers in the same way. So
no. And it's hard to as well because there's no water there. But I don't think people realise, like,
but it
you know,
was.
because the way they do the history, everything that happened would have been thousands of years ago. But, you know, the Salton Sea in America was made, they said, about 1910. Amy was reading it. It was when there was like, they had a really bad snow one year, and the excess snow, it made the Salton Sea. And then they're saying that the Salton Sea is dangerous, hazardous, got chemicals in it, rah-de-rah-de-rah. But basically, it almost looks like the same as the Dead Sea, actually, which is full of salt, which is this place is full of salt.
Yeah.
And it's like, we just don't know our history at all.
No, not at all.
So I was thinking, who's ever known of California having an inland sea.
Mm. Well,
But
this
it
is
does.
it's but
I
there
was really
again, a lot.
shocked, and it's called the Salton Sea. And actually, what is salt? The place is full of salt, and it's the Salton Sea.
Mm.
It's like it's in your face all the time without realizing it, isn't it?
Well, you've got Salt Lake City, which we've got all the Mormons and things. So, I mean, there must have been a Salt Lake there at some time, a bit like the Dead
Well,
Sea.
it is. But they're saying I mean, I do see that it was a place that was inhabited, and now it isn't. Only a
Hmm.
few people live there, and it looks the same thing. You know, you've got those problems with other places where I did Texana, and I did Bodie. There were
Yeah.
towns that was, and they're not there anymore. That's the same thing. It looks like bombs gone off, evacuate, and no one ever goes back. And we found other places like that where people have left their stuff and they don't go back for it.
Well, pretty much anywhere on a Google Earth map, if you're going close enough, you'll see non-natural lines and grid patterns that implies that pretty much something has been on every piece of land at some point.
Well, Christian reckons we've just been mined. And now, you know, like they've been mining us for years.
Yeah. Well, comes etymology, mine. It's like it's mine. It's mine. It's mine and mind. Why is it the same word for so many different things? That's engineered.
My charger, James. My phone's going to run out. I've got to get the charger. I'm doing I'm having some toast. I'm hungry. I don't usually do this in the middle of a hangout, but I just felt really hungry.
Oh dear.
Anyway, I'm running around my house to get my charger now. I'm lo and behold, I'm not so shocked anymore, but I do get shocked because it just blows my mind. And I'm thinking, quite often I find this information out about like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I think, I've got no one to talk to. This is insanity.
Yeah.
It is though, isn't it, James?
Yeah. Pretty much.
I think this is hell here, to be honest.
It is.
I don't think this is something. I don't know. I'd like to think it's something really nice, but it isn't. It is. It's a beautiful place, but it's just got so much evilness in it.
It's a beautiful place, but points to anything.
Well, we have to always have the sort of problems, don't we? Anyway, I didn't plug my phone in quick enough, and I lost James. We're back now. We do feel we've been going for about an hour and a half. We don't have answers. Yeah. Well, James has got an answer that he thinks the pyramids are about the brain, but we don't have answers for the submarines.
Nope.
We don't have answers for most things, really, James. They don't even really know pyramids are there.
That's all by design, though, isn't it? All part of this reality.
Yeah. But we have been going for an hour and a half. Is there anything else you want to say before we go? I know you said your tea's ready.
Yeah. No, that's it, really. It's been fun anyway.
Yeah, it's been good. We haven't talked to each other for a few days, have we? So yeah, we do keep in touch, don't we?
Yeah. But no, I'm seeing a wonderful, organically, naturally developing new sort of way of doing things with cosmology, astrology, and it's like the early signs of it is wonderful. So it's like, this is worth seeing, despite what the external is trying to show us. It's like, nah, not in my world. Not having all their fear porn.
No, you've got to learn to try and shut most of it out and think that that's what it is, fear porn. Yeah.
Well, it's how you feel in yourself with everything. How you.
We can't even work out what happened to the submarines, and we don't even know if that's a story. And well, everything's a story. Yeah.
Well, the things to listen to is like if your body's if you've got a pain in your body, that's your body alerting you.
The bit about like with Anne Boleyn and all that, the person was, because our whole history has been told to us a certain way, and now they're changing it in front of us, and no one's saying anything still. And my friend's like, what? Because who would have put Elizabeth I as a dark-skinned person? But I did that
No.
months ago, and it probably makes a lot of sense.
The majority of people are sort of just kept distracted with everything else, aren't they? So they don't have time to even look, let alone think about these things.
And that's what puts that Harry and Meghan thing. I mean, like, that just is ridiculous.
Anyway, I'm gonna have to go. So.
Yeah, thanks very much,
Okay.
James, for
You're
talking to me. And yeah, it was a great chat. Thanks a lot, James.
welcome. Okay, bye. Bye.
Bye, darling. Bye, darling. Yeah, James is gone. Thanks very much for watching, and speak to you soon.